This is an Audio Wool original.
This episode of Frightday is brought to you by Spring-Heeled Jack Coffee. You need great coffee. Jack delivers. Visit springhieldjack.coffee.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you'd like to support us, go to patreon.com/frightday.
Neither of those are guilty pleasures. I am very proud of my love of Mr. Peepers and
Chris
Clifford.
Kattan is the Train of actors. No, he should be no one's favorite.
I also like Train.
Of course you do. You're back in that atmosphere.
Christmas song?
Come on now.
Wake up the happiness.
All right.
Shake up the happiness. Come on now, it's Christmas time.
It is Fright Day. I'm your host, Byron. What are you doing?
You'll be glad I got a new snack for tonight, B.
All right. It is Fright Day. Stop shaking the nuts into the mic, please. Please. I'm your host, Byron. The past is never dead. It's not even the past. Tonight, we'll talk about an author's fight against the atrocious horrors of the past as they blur into the present, reviewing Gerard and Christopher Renz' Antebellum. And I will not sing the song, but
I will.
In our investigation of ancient advanced civilizations, we're heading under the sea. In this week's edition of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies, I'm joined tonight by Kelly. And
Sebastian,
say something, please.
Sebastian is the greatest.
And Sam can't make it because he's at a conference.
Oh, right. Yeah, he is at a conference in New Orleans.
And Kelly, I'm never, ever again going to get mad at you for talking over me. Because...
You guys talked over me the whole time?
No, last night I heard something shocking.
Oh, yeah.
Two adult men just talking at the same freaking time.
Will you shut up, man?
What a nightmare!
Oh, so bad.
America's in really rough shape, and that's all.
When Chris Wallace had to actually speak to Trump the way I have to speak to Puckwudgie when she's in full-on meltdown mode. Your campaign agreed to these rules. Will you please follow these rules?
I don't have words, Kelly. I don't have words. But onward, we're gonna get through this, everyone.
Are we?
I hope so.
You sure?
I'm not a betting man, but...
I don't know that we are. I told Sam today, in all honesty, that I need us to start coming up with a plan.
We don't need to keep talking about this.
Just saying.
I think I could make an announcement. Do you guys want to hear? I'm asking people like they can respond.
Rhetorical question, everyone.
The first two musical guests that are going to be part of Camp Frightday this year. Of course, go to camp.frightday.com if you haven't registered yet. It's going to be a really great time, October 23rd and 24th. Online. Everyone can get there. You don't have to hop on a plane and sit in an aisle or a window seat with a mask on the whole time. We're just going to hang out on the internet. Camp Frightday, first musical act. You actually heard an interview that I did with these people. Good friends of mine, very talented, spooky musicians. Gold Leather.
Ooh, fun. Do I get to wear gold leather? I actually don't own any gold leather.
Excuse me? Huh. Our second announcement here. These folks are just about to drop a new album. You may have heard them on the soundtrack for the 2015 film Deathgasm, as well as the 2017 film Pool Party Massacre. They also got wrapped up in a bit of a global conspiracy involving a pizza place in Washington, D.C.
Wait. What did they have to do with that?
We'll get into it more during our interview because we're going to be doing a Q&A, maybe a bit of a listening party for their new album, Dead Alive. I'm talking about the band Axe Slasher. You can. I'm just so excited.
It's one of those bands that I never would have heard of if it weren't for my husband, because this is the stuff he likes. Those are like Sam's jams.
Yeah, they're saying. Oh, okay, right now we got to play that.
Yeah, yep. Bringing it back.
Well, hopefully, I believe Sam is going to be talking with them a little bit after their performance. And yeah, we're going to hear a couple new songs off their new album. So very excited for you guys to experience Gold Leather and Axe Slasher. And we're going to be coming out with more announcements about guests at Camp Frightday. They're going to be on our Twitter at Frightday and in the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Frightday. So once again, yeah, can't wait to see you guys there.
Oh boy, here he is.
Oh wait, Sam's outside now?
Sam's jams. He's right here.
Did Spotify give us Rogan's deal?
I mean,
yes, we did. We got Rogan's deal. What was that?
Does that mean Sam's coming back?
300 million or something?
Just 100.
Oh, just 100.
All
Well,
right.
shit. That's not that much.
So you want to drop the news on Sam?
Yeah. So Sam, guess what? Guess what's happening at Camp Frightday?
Well, murders?
No, because
No.
it's
Topless
virtual, Sam. It's virtual.
Male and female frontal nudity.
Oh, right. That's not
No, none of
allowed
that.
on
None of those
Zoom.
things are happening. But we are going to have a performance and Q&A with.
Are you gonna say it?
He can't hear you, so I
I
think
know,
I have
so
to
you
say
have
it.
to.
I'm gonna yell it through Kelly's headphones.
Axe Slasher.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that is awesome.
Isn't that awesome? And you get to interview them because I don't know any good questions to ask them since those are Sam's jams and not Kelly's jams.
And if
we
I
could get
talked
the
to them, it's
ghost of
only
George
about
Michael there,
Pizzagate.
I could interview them. Also, apparently they had something to do with Pizzagate, Byron says, which I didn't know.
The pizzagram is their symbol. It's like a pentagram made out of slices of pizza.
Oh, and it was commandeered for Pizzagate?
Potentially, but they're really cool guys. They were actually at the Stanley when we were there in 2016. We never hooked up. We kept trading DMs and wandering around in circles because they're on the Deathgasm soundtrack. So they were their premiere.
I mean, you played some of their stuff and it wasn't nearly as bad as a lot of the shit you make me listen to.
They actually have their live vinyl. I think it's their first vinyl in quite a while. Is actually out for pre-order right now also.
Which is pretty cool, and that's part of why it's amazing that we get to talk to them and
Go
listen to them.
axslasher.com.
Fantastic.
Okay, now you can go back to your conference in New Orleans. I love you. Goodbye. Travel
Sam.
safely. Watch out for Jenna Malone.
Yeah, on that note, it's time for...
Hey, unless she's outside of Anne Rice's house, where I'm apparently set up in my chaise lounge.
It's time for staff picks.
They say so much, but they never tell you if it's any good.
Werewolf movie with E.T.'s mom in it.
The Howling, horror, straight ahead.
Staff picks. Oh, God, you're going to be so mad about
Oh,
mine, but I
no.
can't help it. Here's the thing. Stick with it for a minute because they've got two very relevant connections.
Uh-huh.
So it is Halloween, Byron. It's spooky season.
Spooky season, yeah.
And you know that I am all about showing Creature and Puckwudgie as many spooky things as I can.
I'm okay with that.
I love sharing that with them.
Yeah.
Okay. We're having a conversation about Black Phillip at the dinner table today.
Very nice. Star of the film, The Witch.
Yep. There is a children's Halloween film series that I had never watched as a kid. And I decided, kind of like the fact that I never read Harry Potter, maybe it'd be fun to experience these with my children. So 3 days ago, we put on the first in the series, a little movie called Halloween Town.
Tonight at 8/7 Central, it's Halloween Town. Marnie Cromwell's family can't be normal.
Why?
Because her grandmother's a witch.
Totally.
And she lives in Halloween Town where it's Halloween all the time.
Halloween is cool.
Well, battling an evil shadow creature is just not normal.
Oh, being normal is vastly overrated.
Find out more about Marnie Cromwell's family's vastly strange powers.
Powers? What powers?
It's Disney Channel's original movie, Halloween Town. Tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Disney Channel.
I've heard of it. I've heard of Halloween Town.
It's like late 90s Disney,
Yeah.
gold.
I remember they did like the 13 Days of Halloween, or it was, who was it? It was like
No.
Family Channel or something.
That's
did.
ABC Family, which is owned by Disney, so it's easy to confuse. But this was like straight up Disney.
Okay.
I mean, like bad dialogue, like the worst special effects CG that you've ever seen in your entire life, but so awesome. Basically, the premise is this girl, her mom really hates Halloween and won't let any of her kids go out on Halloween.
This is the film you're recommending?
Yes. I'm recommending the whole series.
Oh, wow.
So bear with me.
Okay.
I'm recommending the whole series. There's Halloween Town, Halloween Town 2, Calabar's Revenge, Halloween Town 3, which is Halloween Town High.
That's just like
4, which is Return to Halloween Town.
It's like following the Air Bud path.
Right, so basically what we're talking about, it's like a parallel dimension where all the monsters and ghouls live, okay? Because once upon a time they were banished from our dimension. And it just so happens that this girl comes from a long line of witches, and her grandma's a witch, and there's this really fun school bus that you can hop between dimensions, and it's a whole bunch of fun. It's great.
I think a huge percentage of our audience are either young children or adults with children, correct?
Yeah.
You think that's a big swath of our listenership?
I would like a survey, but I think a lot of our listeners, I would say a lot of our listeners have either nostalgia for this series.
That makes sense.
Or have small children of their own who they could show this series
I like that, and that actually might be the subject of our Behind the Screams this week. We'll talk about our favorite childhood Halloween films, maybe.
Which is fantastic, but I am going to finish this.
Yes.
So the third one, Halloween Town High, I'm watching it, and there's this dude in it. I'm like, I recognize him. What do I recognize him from? And I realize that he is one of the repeat actors in American Horror Story.
You're talking about Finn Wittrock. You are.
I am. And he plays our heroine's boyfriend in the third one. Then we move into the fourth one.
I mean, I like this guy. He continues in the series? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. He's gone by the fourth one. But what's interesting is it was the same girl that played our lead role in the first 3 movies. And when the fourth one was being filmed, she was apparently committed to another project, so she couldn't film. Do you know who they brought in to play the lead?
Big guns or small guns?
Big horror guns.
Yeah, who we got?
Sarah Paxton.
I love Paxton. She came in for the 4th in a series on the Disney Channel?
She did.
Shocking.
She did, but she really elevated it. It was funny though. Creature was not happy when we started the fourth one. What happened to Marnie? That isn't Marnie. Why do they have a different Marnie?
All right.
I don't like her. She looks like she cares about herself too much.
Wow. Getting the judgment in really early.
I know. We're working on that. But yeah, so Halloween Town, super fun. A couple fun horror connections. Debbie Reynolds, who's like from Singing in the Rain, old school.
Sure.
You know, it's a lot of fun. All of them are on Disney Plus. Most of them are on Hulu. Check them out.
Great. Mark Mothersbaugh of Devo did the soundtrack.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's pretty cool. I mean, he's an incredible soundtrack artist. And I mean, he just survived COVID, so that's pretty good.
There you go. A thank you.
Yeah, you're going to be disappointed at me now because I get to maybe bum you out a bit.
Please tell me it's not Valentine.
What?
You're not recommending a Valentine movie, are you?
No, it's September. What are you talking about?
No, I mean The Man.
Sorry. Pardon me. When you don't say Lucifer before it doesn't really make as much sense to me.
I know, but he really likes that part of it, so I like to leave it out.
A slight fail on my part this week. I tried really hard to come up with another Civil War horror film, actually, but turns out there's not a lot of them, and the ones that exist aren't spectacular. You all know my thoughts on Dead Birds, which Kelly
I was just going to say
very easily could have used that. Exit Humanity was iffy, and yeah, I've never seen the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
I actually haven't either. I should probably watch that.
I don't think you need to. But I did get the chance to catch up on a documentary series that I've been meaning to see, HBO's The Vow.
If we understood the world, and if we understood ourselves, that's worth everything.
ESP Nexium is a methodology that allows people to optimize their behavior.
Nexium is the umbrella company. Keith was the founder.
He had the highest IQ in the world. He was a legend.
Our main belief is to have people experience more joy in their lives.
It's a worldwide organization.
LA has a center, San Francisco is building a center, Miami, London.
You will be as ethical as possible. You will be that which you want to see in the world.
When conventional solutions don't work, maybe the unconventional way of thinking does.
They've hacked the human brain.
I was looking around at all these people that just didn't seem joyful. I started to get concerned.
There's a group of women that have signed a vow. They've given things as collateral. and they're trying to recruit other women to do this.
There's a secret organization in NXIVM. They sign a lifetime vow of obedience, and they're branding girls.
I'm so strong. Like, you'd never be able to do what I just did.
If you believe I've done something good, that's important because I always want to earn my authority.
There's a lot of things about the organization that's just not right.
Our commitment is our power. You stay.
There's no good way to leave. Ever.
As much as she doesn't know how to let go of this cult, I don't know how to let go of her.
I have to expose what's going on. This has to be stopped.
Okay. Well,
listen, it's definitely not a reality series about people committing to each other, a la The Bachelor. It actually follows the experience of people deeply involved in the self-improvement group NXIVM, an organization under siege with charges including sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy brought against its highest members and founder, Keith Raniere. How much do you know about NXIVM?
I know that it's one of those scary cults that some famous people got involved in that you like to research, which means I probably shouldn't.
Well, here we go. You all know I'm a fan of true crime and specifically cults, but I have to be honest, this cult, NXIVM, never really interested me.
Why? Not enough murder?
No, not enough murder, and it wasn't particularly weird. There was no shocking violence, so I kind of dodged it for a while, but boy oh boy, I've seen the first 5 episodes of this series. I'm a freaking wreck. A horrific exploitation. It's really uncomfortable, but it's a very important watch to understand the psychology of a cult, because these are the kind of cults that'll slip under the radar. This is very similar to Scientology in a sense, except Scientology is so grand. Like, I think at its highest, this had, I could be wrong, but I think something like 800 members.
What?
They were letting Keith schedule what they ate, how much they ate. They were getting something like 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night and just starting over. Most of the services that they provided, these sort of group leadings, they were doing it for free or very little money with the promise of making more money in the future as they moved up in the organization. And that's before things got really, really bad. There's a secret society inside of this where women were recruiting slaves and branding each other. It was just
what?
Crazy. Very interesting watch. But yeah, I'm just maybe in a place where this is emotionally a lot. It's heavy. This is a really intense documentary, especially without outwardly salacious stuff. Because I'm not going to say that sex trafficking is not horrific, but you know what I'm saying. It's just, it was surprising, and it was really, really good. There's a guy named Mark Vincent. He was actually the director of the 2004 film What the Bleep Do We Know?
Oh, I've seen that one.
Have you seen it?
Oh, yeah, you betcha.
What is it?
Watched it in college. It's like a super new agey posing as quantum physics movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty pseudoscience-y. It's really fun. There are actually some cool pieces of actual science inserted in it, but there's a lot of fringy packaging.
Yeah, I think I worked at a video store when that was out. It never piqued my interest. I never saw it. But yeah, that director of that film was one of the higher ups in NXIVM. He was actually best friends with Keith Raniere. He began recording their conversations even before he started to see the nefarious aspects of the cult. So this documentary features a lot of recordings by him and by a couple other people who were close to him as it all kind of falls down. Keith's involvement in his relationship caused him to separate from his wife, and they come back together with this project. It's really, really intense, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of the R. Kelly series that came out on Lifetime a couple years ago as well. There's these victims who are trying to get justice and to stop this. It's really good. So yeah, obviously, a lot of people have been talking about The Vow. I finally checked it out, and I think it's very much worth watching. So yeah, grab that HBO Go password
all
from
of
your
you
parents.
should. Let's be real, I'm not going to.
No, it's not for you.
No.
Too busy dipping your toes.
Under the sea?
Under the sea, in this week's edition of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies.
Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies.
They've been here the whole time.
You've been here the whole time?
It would be weird if they weren't. You spun your chair around? I didn't see you there.
Yeah. So...
You're at this stage already? Part 2? You're like...
Well, I mean...
What?
Here's the problem, Byron. I know that you don't want me to turn this into like an 8-part series.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would prefer if it wasn't. That's for sure.
And so...
We got an election special. We could press pause in the middle and do our election special at some point.
Also, I do have this great idea that my last part could be the first part of Turkey Month.
Absolutely not. I didn't even think about that. And no. Absolutely not.
It's glorious.
Okay.
Tonight, we are going to focus on interesting findings underneath the ocean that could indicate the presence of an ancient advanced civilization, advanced beyond what we commonly accept with our
tridents.
King Trident?
Just tridents in general.
I don't think we have any tridents yet. I mean, but there could be, because so much of the ocean is unexplored, Byron. And as we discussed last episode, there have been so many changes to the surface of the earth, which parts are covered by water and which parts are land.
And the parts that are occupied by people, just less than 1%.
By humans or other creatures. There's a lot that we don't know about the land, and there's even more we don't know about what maybe used to be land and is now underwater. There are so many cool sites that we've found already that people are investigating and doing archaeological research on underwater. It's really difficult to pick out a few to focus on. So what I'm going to do tonight is cover a couple of them, and then I'm going to give you guys a few that you can take and investigate on your own, because I really would like you all to learn about them because they're super fun. I just know that if I try to do another 2-hour episode, Byron might explode. If I break it into 2 parts, because I still have at least 3 more parts,
same outcome.
I don't think you'll appreciate that either. So tonight we're going to focus on 2 significant sites. One of them, the Black Sea. And it's not even necessarily artifacts in the Black Sea, but the surrounding area of the Black Sea and what both geologists and marine biologists and archaeologists have been able to discover in like the last few decades about water in that area and what that could mean about ancient underwater civilizations in other places as well. So let's back up. About 20 years ago, 12 miles off the Turkish coast, about 300 feet below the surface of the Black Sea, National Geographic Society found evidence of human habitation. Mer people? Unfortunately, we are not yet that far off the rails. You see, this discovery supported a thesis from 2 very mainstream, reputable Columbia University marine biologists who had discovered evidence a few years before of a catastrophic flood that they believed had very quickly changed the landscape of the area surrounding the Black Sea. Now, big flood, very rapid. Does this ring any bells for you, Byron?
It strums a harp. Are you talking biblically?
I mean, it could be.
Talking about the Great Flood and
yeah, good old Noah.
2 animals of each.
Right, and then we got Gilgamesh, which is, you know, another story that aligns with that pretty closely.
Yeah.
There are lots of legends throughout many cultures and many religions about a giant flood. And it seems like
you're going to be telling me the Jesus story is not only in the Holy Bible?
Okay, well, we're not going to go there.
I'm sorry. I'm so
one of these
sorry.
days I will.
I think we did a Christmas special, remember?
I know. I feel like I need to revisit it. There's so much more to be done.
All right.
So much more to be done. This could be the smoking gun of the Great Flood. And it's kind of cool. There are some, I'm not going to lie, they're a little bit boring in terms of the stuff I'm used to watching, but they're cool and scientific. Again, we aren't off the rails yet. So just some great documentaries about kind of how this discovery evolved. Here's how the theory goes. And by the way, these 2 guys wrote a book about it called Noah's Flood, The New Scientific Discoveries About the Event That Changed History.
Are we talking
Here's the theory.
William Ryan and Walter Pittman?
You bet. You bet. You bet. All right. 7,600 years ago, roughly, there was some pretty severe climate warming. Man-made.
Okay.
This caused the ice caps to melt, the global sea level to rise, and it ultimately broke through the Bosphorus Strait, which had previously acted almost as a dam between the Mediterranean Sea and the Black Sea. Because you see, at the time, the Black Sea wasn't a sea, it was just a big-ass lake.
Yeah.
And when the Bosphorus Strait broke through, the water flooded, This is kind of crazy to think about. When it flooded through, it flooded at what they estimate is 200 times the force of Niagara Falls.
Wow.
The surface of the Black Sea, formerly known as the Black Lake.
Is that true?
Well, I mean, I'm sure, who knows what the hell they called it back then, right?
Pardon me.
It was the aliens or something. Who knows? But I'm just kidding. It wasn't really the aliens. I mean, maybe it was, but that's not what we're talking about tonight. It rose 6 inches per day. In the period of a year, more than 60,000 square miles of land were buried in water. Okay?
Wow.
So those guys had this theory, which then led to, okay, underneath the water around the Black Sea is a lot of land that once was above water. Investigating what's on there could lead to some pretty cool discoveries. And lo and behold, it did. In fact, the lead oceanographer on the expedition that made these discoveries of remnants of an ancient civilization was the same fella who found and explored the Titanic.
James Cameron?
It wasn't. It wasn't really
I thought
him.
James Cameron found the Titanic.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm wrong.
He didn't.
What about the Hope Diamond?
He found the Hope Diamond under there. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't find that either. Okay, it's really funny because my brain just immediately jumped. There's this giant ruby in the 4th Halloween Town movie.
All right.
That she wears kind of like the Hope Diamond. Sorry.
I'm going to need you to move on. This story reminded me a little bit of the Earthquake Lake story in southwestern Montana.
That is cool. Have you been there?
I have. It's very unsettling. So yeah, 1959, an earthquake struck in southwestern Montana and actually caused a massive landslide that covered a bunch of structures, killed 28 people, and caused this lake to form.
Yep.
It's very interesting. There's still trees sticking up out of the middle of the lake and roads that go into it. But
do you know what's really funny? The last time we were at Yellowstone, we stopped at the little monument for Earthquake Lake, and there was an older guy that was there and looking at it at the same time, and he started talking to us. He was camping there the night that it happened.
And it happened during the night. It buried people.
Yeah, like in the middle of the night.
The landslide came down the mountain at 100 miles per hour and just covered people. But we should probably get back to the Black Sea.
So the artifacts were really well preserved, like abnormally well preserved, because at deeper locations in the Black Sea, there's a significant absence of oxygen. So like there's very, very, very little oxygen. Not many creatures can survive, which means there's less likelihood of creatures contributing to the degradation of these artifacts. So a lot of stuff was in really, really good shape. It is very, very difficult to conduct underwater digs, so to speak, and to recover materials. I mean, any kind of archaeology is challenging. Underwater, it's even more challenging. So it's very slow going, and there's a lot more to be investigated, but there's some pretty cool theories that have popped up out of it. I will preface this by saying I've spoken to a couple of archaeologists who feel very strongly that this starts to border on a problematic area of like Western ethnocentrism. In other words, like this idea that civilization didn't evolve in Africa. It must have evolved somewhere closer to Europe, right? And I certainly don't subscribe to anything like that.
Problematic thinking.
It can be very problematic thinking, and obviously the reason for looking at this has nothing to do with me disbelieving that all of our human origins could have come out of Africa. In fact, they probably did. Most science points to that. This is just a cool thing that, hell, it could be Atlantis, guys. It could be something. But what it has been known as among some, I'm going to just say investigators, is the lost Orolithic civilization of Varna.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Okay?
Varna.
This is the area that was lost in the Black Sea. I guess it is actually technically part of what is now Bulgaria. Some people are positing maybe Eastern Europe didn't evolve from African individuals that migrated there. Now, I don't know why that has to be the narrative behind it. It seems to me that just because there's a civilization here doesn't mean that it didn't originally come from a point of origin in Africa. But again, that's not my specialty. I am not making any statements about this superseding the origin of humanity in old school cradle of civilization over there, okay? But the Varna culture is supposedly a super interesting one. It was very short-lived, so there's not a lot of evidence, but there's a lot of discussion about it. Supposedly it was very advanced.
It was only about 300 years, right?
Which is interesting to contemplate, because if you think about our industrial history, that's about where we're at right now.
Yeah, wow.
And it seems very much, especially after last night, like we are on the verge of ending that. So the idea of a 300-year civilization makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to sleep really well. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
Feeling good.
Yeah. A lot of really cool things, a lot of indications of religion, different rites, really beautiful pottery and jewelry, a lot of advanced things. There is debate about the dating of some of these items. You know, as I said, it is emerging. It seems like this was so many years ago, because it was discovered like 20 years ago, that we should be further along. But this stuff goes very, very slowly. And also because it is in an area that, you know, is not always an easy area to be in the world, it's even more challenging to investigate there. More stuff's being found out every year, and hopefully we'll learn more as time passes, but it's cool to investigate this as a possibility.
Yeah.
It looks like what they're finding is much further along civilization-wise than we thought existed in this area of the world at that time.
Yeah, but where are the cell phones?
Oh, yeah, I don't know about the cell phones. Have you heard about the underwater statues off the coast of the Canary Islands? You should look up a picture of that, Byron, and so should you guys at home while you're listening.
No, I don't think I have.
It's funny because I was doing research for this episode and that popped up, and at first I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And then I realized it's all just like this cool modern museum that was built like in the last 20 years. It's just a bunch of cool, freaky looking
statues here.
Yeah, it's really interesting, but it is not ancient. There's nothing ancient about it. So
no, they just built this to, I mean, there's literally a life raft that they made.
Yes. Definitely not relevant to our discussion tonight.
It's underwater. And a couple maybe taking a selfie?
Yeah. Wow. I think that's actually what brought it to mind, was when you said cell phones. Very cool, right?
Well,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready to go the way of the Varna. They've got some very intricate gold work, which is always surprising to me. Gold has always been valuable. I don't know why that is.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
Soft, malleable metal, maybe?
It's just so weird to think about. Like, who
what draws
decided
us
that?
to it?
I just don't give a shit about it. I don't care about diamonds. I don't care about gold.
I don't know.
I like sprinkles.
I know you do. I really do.
So this is a cool one. Again, for the 18th time, removing myself from any ethnocentric statements about surely civilization must have evolved in the Western world, not in Africa. I don't buy into that. In fact, honestly, what this would lead me to think is, hey, maybe parts of the civilization in Africa go back even further than we think they do. And in fact, we're going to get to that maybe next episode. Yonaguni. In the waters off the island of Yonaguni-jima in Japan, about 80 feet under the surface, there was a crazy discovery in 1986. Just for the record, Wikipedia says 85, but about 5 other sources I found said 86, including National Geographic, so I'm saying 86. Scuba divers discovered these incredible stone structures. Shortly after that discovery, the area was named Isiki Hanto. Definitely just putting wrong emphasis in the pronunciation.
You know
there,
what?
I'm sure.
Like, as long as you say it as a question.
Yes, there is no confidence in that statement, no arrogance or illusion of correctness. That does translate to Ruins Point, though.
Okay.
Starting in 1992, Masaki Kimura, who is a marine geologist from the University of Ryukyus,
All right.
in Japan.
There it is. She's back.
Began diving at the site to measure and map all of these different formations. He believes that these are the ruins of a city that sunk about 200 years ago, but that the city itself dates back at least 5,000 years. And again, we're in a scenario where, okay, these are more advanced civilization remnants than what we thought existed at this place at this time. But this place is really hotly debated because a lot of people just think that it's natural rock formations.
Oh, get the fuck out. I'm looking at pictures right now, and you can look at pictures of this in the show notes of this episode of Frightday.com. Kelly, I'm the guy who always says that to you.
I know.
These are literally stairs, and there's like a goddamn pyramid, which if you want more pyramid talk, episode 188 and 189, we did a 2-parter, I believe.
And also next week, we're going to go even further.
I just don't see how you could think that this is natural, but...
Well, especially because one of them really does look pyramidic. I mean, it's just... It's very hard for me, but here's the craziest part, Byron. Listen to this. Now, are you familiar, speaking of Egypt again, you familiar with a gentleman named Robert Schoch?
Sounds like a guy I used to do amateur backyard wrestling with.
That's not the same one. He's a professor fella from Boston University, and he's written a lot about Egypt and the Sphinx, and we'll talk about him. But he is a total naysaying Nelly, and maybe that's just because he doesn't want anybody looking at these Japanese ruins. He's like, screw you guys, keep your focus on Egypt, where I have my expertise. I don't want you looking over
Egypt
here.
Egypt is so played out.
I mean, it's not. It's never going to be played out. There's so much there, especially because of freaking Zahi and all the shit that he's hidden over the years.
Your campaign against Zahi Hawass, that might be the biggest Friday rivalry that we have going. And right now,
get me an interview.
It's Zahi Hawass and David Paulides.
Okay, I'm not fighting Paulides. You fight Paulides.
I think he's a great guy. He will never get back to me. He will never do it.
Okay, so here's a quote from Schoch. Professor Kimura says he has seen some kind of writing or images, but they are just scratches on a rock that are natural.
Right.
He has been quoted a ton of times talking about how this is absolutely a natural rock formation. The fault lines around the area align with exactly how this should have been created, and there are other people who also agree with that. I believe that good old Hancock is on the side of Kimura, but again, this is a very slowly but consistently developing archaeological dig site. I guess some people wouldn't even call it an archaeological dig site because you would have to acknowledge that there was some type of humanity there at some point in order for that to be.
Just speaking to Robert Schoch's credentials, though, he is an associate professor of natural science at the College of General Studies, Boston University.
Yes.
Not a total kook.
No.
But he does believe in some like fringe Sphinx water erosion hypothesis, which I don't know anything about.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. Oh. But yeah, so he believes in that, but he does not believe in Yonaguni. He says nay to Yonaguni. I just think it's super duper cool because...
And by the way, I did backyard wrestle with this guy.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking at his face now.
Some people believe that these ruins are the remains of Mu, or is it Mew?
Mew?
Mew? Mu.
What is it? How's it spelled?
M-U?
Mu.
Mu.
Mu. Are you looking at the dictionary?
Mu.
It's Mu.
And depending on what line of thinking you believe is either another term for Atlantis or a separate but similar legend pertaining to a Pacific civilization that vanished long ago. There are people who believe that that's what this must be because there are a lot of cool legends in that part of the world tied to Mew.
It's Mu. I just told you.
I know. It just my gut keeps saying that that can't be right.
It's right. I just
maybe it is. I guarantee you, I'm going to hear back from some anthropologists, archaeologists, geologists, and I want to, who are going to yell at me and say Yonaguni is natural, and I will say, okay, you're smarter than me. I probably believe you, but you look at the pictures, and it's really hard to swallow that that's not something constructed. So much to be found under the sea. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about tonight, which...
but back up. We didn't see any other remnants of a potential advanced
civilization. Well, and that's kind of the problem.
No
because
gold, no bones, nothing like that.
Well, and supposedly, Kimura has writing and thinks that there are certain structures that have been shaped like animals and things
stuff,
like that.
Yeah.
But there aren't as many pictures available as that. I don't know if he's like holding those cards closer to his chest and working on like a big paper he's going to put out. I'm not sure. I can find writings about it, like where he's talked about it and where people like Schoch have refuted it, but finding the images themselves a little bit difficult. So if anybody has those, I'd love to see those. Yeah. Somebody who has access to scientific journals, maybe?
This one's interesting, but I have trouble because if we're just looking at right angle structures, but with no rooms and no tombs, it's a little harder to believe.
Well, and the other problem is this is a location, unlike the Black Sea, where extreme erosion would have taken place. And so stuff would have been completely swept away or dissolved that may have indicated more evidence.
Yeah, that's a characteristic of the Black Sea that I don't think we highlighted enough, is the waters are incredibly still, the tide doesn't change.
And the oxygen part is really big, deep down. So either there was never anything here, or there was, and some of it has washed away, and just the major huge structures are what remain. But there's a lot that's left to be dug. You know, like there's a lot more to be explored under there. There are also pieces that are off other islands in the same area that may or may not be connected to this. And so there's a ton going on there. More information coming out every year. So the last piece that I'm going to talk about, I wish we could spend an entire episode on just this, but it is...
Maybe we will in like 4 years when we run out of shit to talk about.
I mean, we're never going to run out of shit to talk about, especially with the way that this world is going. But yes,
you doing
certainly.
Good? You okay?
I mean, I'm really trying to just ostrich it for the time being.
Great.
That's my plan. Not to be confused with the Black Sea. We're going to the Baltic Sea.
Easily confused.
It's like me. I always used to confuse Al Pacino and Robert De Niro.
I could see that.
But they're really different in so many ways. They just have Italian last names. So that's like super crazy awful of me that I couldn't
It's
distinguish
literally
between
just
the
a
two.
hop and a skip over Ukraine and Poland, these two.
Well.
So I guess I could see them being easily confused.
So there is this incredibly cool structure underneath the Baltic Sea that was discovered a bit ago, and there have been a few expeditions to look at it, but this structure has a very interesting property where, anecdotally, basically every expedition that goes there has equipment failure in the area, and then when they leave the area, the equipment starts working again. Okay? So that's weird. Weird number one. There was a sample removed from the area that appears to be a piece of basalt, but with burnt organics, which seems like it would be more indicative of something that crashed there. Crashed is a bad word because that implies
UFOs,
like it was
or
piloted.
some sort of.
Even like a meteorite or something. Okay.
alright.
But from the top, this thing looks like the damn Millennium Falcon.
No, come on. All right.
Look
This has
up a
been
picture.
Friday.
Look up a picture,
Well,
B. I want you to look up the picture.
Look at what? The actual...
Just Google Millennium Falcon Baltic Sea. I'm not kidding
And
you.
this will be in the show notes.
Google it.
Friday.com.
Google it. Google it. It's 200 feet wide. It's 300 feet below, which is ironic because that's about the same depth as what we were talking about in the Black Sea.
All right. I'm looking at this thing. It does look strikingly familiar to some sort of craft resembling
The
Millennium Falcon.
You can almost see
piloted
Chewie
by-
and Han
Yeah.
in there.
Mhm.
You can almost see them. Okay.
Wow.
As they started looking, as much as they've been able to, it actually is almost like a mushroom shape. So like that top of it is there, but then below it, it like continues to go down and it kind of looks like this weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a Swedish explorer named Peter Lindbergh who was doing a dive looking for an old shipwreck and instead found this. Like, yay. What a fun surprise.
Why is it still
There's that
down
one.
there? And what are the dimensions again?
200 feet wide.
Wow.
And who knows how far down it goes. I mean, it's ginormous.
Okay.
There is very little known about it. You can see stories about it and people are really confused. There are some people that throw out dating like 14,000 years old. Others will just throw another zero on there and say it's 140,000-year-old structure. People say it's absolutely a UFO. A lot of the stories you read about it are sensational. The thing is, there is an anomaly there. It is something interesting, at the very least.
Yeah. And
we cannot say that it's a UFO. We have no idea. There's a lot more research that needs to be done. But it is striking how many expeditions have kind of come up empty-handed because they literally couldn't get their equipment to work there.
Wow. I mean, this is really shocking. I mean, I don't know why we aren't putting our resources towards, or I mean, us as humans aren't trying to figure out what this is. Do we know what it's made of?
Well, like I said, there's one sample that was removed that was like basalt with some burnt organic material.
that's what
The
you were
burning
saying.
part is kind of weird.
Tell me what basalt is. I don't even know what that is.
It's just a rock.
Volcanic
It's a type of
rock.
rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not made of like an alloy of any kind.
Well, pieces that have been recovered,
Yeah.
right?
I got to tell you, Kelly, rocks don't fly very well.
No, they don't. But I do think that there's a lot to be found here. What's weird is if you do research on it, there's a ton that comes up from right around the time that it was discovered. End of 2011. A lot of times it's quoted as 2012 because that's when most of the media started reporting on it.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know what the hell it is. There have been lots of, I hate using this phrase even anymore, but lots of fake news stories around the internet that
Fake
have,
news.
right, that have added completely false information to this story and kind of discredit it. So you really have to be careful when you're researching it.
I don't know.
and
Gaia's
sift
got a
through the
great
bullshit.
article on this.
I know. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Yeah. And that's why I say with regard to the equipment kind of quitting nearby, that is pretty anecdotal. I have read it in quite a few places, but...
Sorry, got ruffians outside.
Oh, no, you're fine. But when it comes down to something like this, until I can read like a truly academic paper reporting on it, it's going to be hard for me to state any of that as factual. You know what I mean?
That gives us a good reason to come back and talk about the Baltic Sea anomaly. This is really interesting.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a fun, cool object. Some of the theories that aren't quite as interesting about it, it could be a rock outcropping that was the result of gas venting from the seafloor.
Interesting, considering it's made of volcanic rock. Yeah.
Yep, okay. Some people say it's a glacial deposit.
I'm not sure what that even is.
Well, it just means like it's a deposit from a glacier. Like, it's something that a glacier left there.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, even the guy that discovered it, that Swedish fella, Peter, he doesn't think that it's an alien spacecraft since it's not made of metal. But I say, who knows if aliens would build their ships out of metal all the time?
It's true. I mean, remember how they built the pyramids.
Cave aliens, too.
All right. And I mean, I'm just saying, like, the technology they had was able to levitate, potentially, the stones that built the pyramids. So why wouldn't their technology be able to support the weight of something like this?
Bam. Okay, so a couple things for you guys to investigate on your own. A giant megalith underneath the water, about 40 meters underwater, between Sicily and Tunisia, called the Pantelleria Vecchia Bank Megalith.
You're doing your best.
Hopefully that's pseudo-correct. Giant block of sedimentary calcareidite limestone, 12 meters long. It weighs 15 tons.
Wow.
It's believed to have rested on an island, which has now become this bank that's underwater. And the last time that it was an island above water was about 9,500 years ago. So that's a really interesting one. Dig deeper into that. There is a spot called Tronic or Thonic. I've seen it pronounced differently.
I've been to that club.
Or Heraklion. Hidden under the water for 1,200 years, there are statues of Isis, other gods, royal palace with both Egyptian and Greek inscriptions. Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Not sure why it ended up at the bottom of the sea. Lots of fun stuff to look into there.
Maybe they're like Montreal, Canada, and they have to do everything in 2 languages.
Oh, it could be. And then the last one, which isn't necessarily advanced civilization, but this came up when I was doing my research, and we're going to need to talk about this at some point, the Devil's Sea, that anomalous zone off the coast of Japan.
Well, you didn't do the Devil's Sea? That's like the only one I care about.
I'm sorry. I don't think I did.
Well, Kelly...
You tell me. I mean, I forget everything that I do, so...
Well, Kelly, thank you so much. It's in the Dragon's Triangle? Come on. Thank you so much for that report, Kelly. I really do appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
What's on deck next week?
I think we're going to Egypt.
Going back to Egypt.
We're going to go check out the Sahara Sea next week.
It's always the sea with you.
You see, it used to be underwater.
Ah, fantastic. Well, I can't wait, Kelly.
It's a little bit like the Chipmunk Adventure going all around the world.
All right. I didn't need that. I really didn't.
I know you were looking for a transition, but I didn't want to give you one. I was thinking about Chipmunk Adventure.
Trying to tank the show. It's not going to work, though, Kelly, because right now we're about to talk about a film called Antebellum.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
Antebellum. It's a 2020 American horror film written and directed by Jared Bush and Christopher Renz. It's their feature directorial debut. Veronica, a PhD sociologist and best-selling author whose books explore the disenfranchisement of black people in the U.S., travels to New Orleans, where she's set to speak at a conference. There, her empowering words remind the audience members that though black people are often expected to be seen and not heard, their time is now. What Veronica doesn't yet realize is that fate has chosen her to save us from the past and to uncover a horrific secret that connects us to a Civil War era enslaved woman, Eden. Across time and different worlds and eras, Eden and Veronica find themselves enveloped in a life-altering circumstance. All the copy for this movie is incredibly interesting.
I think there's a lot of really interesting and valid discussion around this movie.
I completely
have to
agree.
say that if you want to see it, all of that is worth reading. I think you should read all the different perspectives on it, but please wait until after you see it, because you really will spoil a lot of the fun of the movie if you go in having all that knowledge.
Do you know
all of that said?
Do you know the definition of antebellum?
Well, yeah, it's the antebellum South.
Comes from Latin, ante meaning before, and bellum meaning war. So occurring or existing
before the Civil War, aka peak slavery.
Yeah, Civil War. So the antebellum South.
I guess aka peak overt slavery.
Yeah. You, I believe, have done more research than I have for the first time on a director.
I really dug in with this one.
Couple. Gerard Bush and Christopher Renz. Tell me a little bit about them. I guess I could fill in the details, because I do have a really great fact sheet on these guys that was from the folks at Lionsgate that I might buzz in.
Well, I guess I will give the perspective that they had a really interesting interview on NPR.
Okay.
Sam and I had very differing opinions about that interview. There was a lot of thought that went into this movie. This was not a churned out horror film.
Could have fooled me.
Whether you find them pretentious or not, this was a very intentionally created movie with a lot of thought that went into it. One of the cool facts that I love about the story is that they actually went back and tracked down the lenses that were used for filming Gone with the Wind.
That is cool.
Which is traditionally viewed as one of the most overtly racist movies of all time.
Yeah, I mean, so much so that it's been removed from all streaming.
I don't know if it has or not, but I do.
Disney pulled it because I think it is owned by Disney property, something like that. But
okay, that makes sense then. I mean, basically the whole movie glorifies antebellum South, and so this movie is kind of like the antithesis of that. Mm-hmm. So it was this this notion of reclaiming that story and that narrative as a more authentic one.
Might be my favorite part of this movie.
Yeah. Give me the rest of those facts though, because you probably got quite a bit more.
Yeah, Gerard and Christopher, I believe you told me that they're a couple.
They are a couple.
Okay.
Yes.
I was unaware. I didn't see that in this, but I know that they're best known for creating advertising for brands like Harry Winston, Vogue, and Porsche, or Porsche.
I hate
know.
saying Porsche.
I know you do. You've said it on the show. You probably don't remember.
It bothers me.
Yeah. They shifted their work towards more social justice projects, including a 2017 PSA called Against the Wall, and shorts for Jay-Z, one called Kill Jay-Z for his album 444, something called 17 for the subscription service Tidal, which is also owned by Jay-Z. But yeah, with this film, the idea came out of a nightmare that Gerard had a few years ago after experiencing some personal loss. He said, quote, "This nightmare was about a woman named Eden. The experience was so horrific and surreal that I immediately wanted to talk about it with Chris. It felt like my ancestors had visited me to tell me the story. We thought it had the makings of an exciting short film." Yeah, I think it's an interesting idea. Do we want to get into that? Was there anything else from that interview that you heard on NPR that...
No, I mean, I think that there has been a lot of really interesting, and I think, you shouldn't disregard it, but a lot of interesting criticism around this movie. And I think a lot of it comes from the perspective that you're sitting in when you watch it. And obviously, when I'm watching a movie about the horrors of racism and slavery, I'm sitting in a much different seat than somebody who is still experiencing part of those horrors and who has lived with that as part of their family's story. It's a very different thing for me. So I view it from the outside looking in, and I think that makes it a completely different experience for me. I really liked this movie. It's been accused of being kind of like sensationalist and almost, God, what's the word I'm looking for?
Exploitive?
Yes, that's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you, Byron.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
Okay, so it'll be interesting to hear you talk about that then. And I've read a lot of articles. There was one really interesting article I read that basically... a very oversimplified summary was, can we please stop making tragic movies about black women? Can we make a movie where it's positive and powerful
Yeah.
without the horrors and the tragedy.
It's tough.
I can't imagine as a black woman watching this
Yeah.
and feeling that way, because those aren't shoes that I can sit in, but I certainly value that perspective.
If it wasn't going to be at the helm of a black woman, I think at least an interracial couple, especially an interracial gay couple. I mean, it's not like they were completely clueless in what they were attempting to do. I just don't think they did it very well.
Okay, see, and I love it. And part of the reason I love it is I look around this world and I feel like it's on fire.
Yeah, world's on fire. How about
I think
yours?
about, well, oh, they're on fire too.
You don't need to think about Smash Mouth.
It's so sad because they're terrible now.
Yeah, I'll send you that video of everyone throwing bread at them at a county fair. It's my favorite.
I mean, yeah, if they're freaking Proud Boys now.
Come on, everyone's not a Proud Boy.
Throwers.
Come on, focus a little bit.
I'm sorry. So for me, any perspective that somebody from a privileged position from me can watch and even slightly feel more, I don't know, aware of the horrors of that history, I appreciate. Also, I will say that my knowledge of American history, because of a very strange high school history class experience.
You saw Roots in high school, right?
Nope, didn't.
Wow.
My high school history teacher did not believe in war.
Oh, I do remember. Yeah, I know that one.
So there's a lot that I did not learn, and, real bad on me for not picking up the pieces since then. But I'm real busy on researching other things for Captain Kelly's.
Well, let's open this film up just a little bit. I don't know if you were...
Well, yes. I guess I just, before you do that, I just want to say that just because I like this movie doesn't mean... There's some movies where I'm like, you're a freaking idiot if you don't like this movie. I don't feel that way about this movie. I think there are a lot of valid reasons to not like this movie. My personal viewing experience was... I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. It drove home some messages that I thought were interesting. Certainly wasn't as eloquently executed as, say, Get Out.
Yeah, which, I mean, we're really banking on the success of Get Out to sell this film.
Oh, for sure. But I do think it's in the same vein of, like, promoting awareness.
Sure.
Though I can certainly see criticisms for it.
Absolutely nothing wrong with the intention of this film. I just think that if you're going to cover this sort of subject matter, you have to do it in a way that is more effective and less exploitative. Exploitative? Am I missing a syllable in there? I don't know. We open.
I think you can do it either way, actually.
Louisiana plantation during the Civil War. It's been taken over by the Confederate Army, and they have taken this group of slaves. It's really, really effective. The way they open this, it's just like almost too much at a certain point. There's literally a crematory. I had no idea that was actually something that existed on plantations.
Okay,
and
so
I didn't do the research to find out.
Then this movie was important for you to watch.
I guess
I mean, that right there, I think, is...
I learned something. That's
reason enough.
And we've got a new group of slaves brought to the plantation. Among them is this pregnant woman, played by Janelle Monáe, who I really didn't know much about, honestly.
Holy shit. That is one thing I'm going to just come out and say.
Yeah, I mean, I know that she performed at the Oscars,
did anything
less,
right? Yeah, and if you think she did anything less than an incredible job in this movie, you are an idiot.
I think she did an amazing job, and she did dual roles as Veronica and Eden.
Yep.
I think she did a really great job. She's selected by a woman named Elizabeth, played by Jenna Malone, who is one of my favorite actresses.
She's evil.
It's always a surprise to see her now, so I was very excited. I mean, I think the last time we talked about a Jenna Malone film was when we covered The Neon Demon, way
Which I
back.
like too.
Yeah. Equally amazing. Purchases Eden, like a lot of awful stuff just keeps happening.
Oh, God. So bad.
But you know what took me out of it?
What?
Was the leader of the Confederate troops that have taken this plantation, Captain Jasper, played by a guy named Jack Houston.
Those of you who watch Boardwalk Empire will remember him as the assassin with, like, the mangled face. And I love him.
I didn't
I'm surprised
know
you
that.
didn't like him.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I like the guy with the weird half mask in Boardwalk Empire.
That's him.
Wow.
One and the same.
Well,
same feller.
I thought his performance was shit. I didn't like it one bit.
Oh, I liked it.
No.
God, see, there are so many things that I want to talk about that I can't because they're spoilers.
Well, we might get into spoilers, but I gotta say, I kept expecting a Leonardo and Django Unchained type of performance, and I didn't get that from him.
Beat me, because I'm going for it.
Okay. We might get back into that, but I think that's an interesting perspective. Kelly off mic just said something very interesting. We might get back to it.
Of course I said something interesting.
Well,
Everything I say is interesting.
I don't know. I was unimpressed with his performance, but we might debate that here in a little bit. There's some really awful rape scenes.
Oh my God.
But mixed in there was a really, really good scary performance by a guy named Robert Ameo. He's a young soldier that entered into this situation very insecure. He's given this woman for the night.
Spooky.
He shows a little bit of weakness, and she takes that as an opportunity to say, you don't have to do this, and then he reacts. He flips. And it was an amazing
Real
flip.
scary.
I think this might have been the best performance in the entire movie.
I do think he was amazing. I think that was a really incredible performance. And you know who else I think was really cool? Which ironically, at first, I thought that it was like the worst acting job in the history of time.
Okay.
And then I realized it wasn't. It was a great acting job. Was Kiersey Clemens playing Julia, one of the women who's brought on to the plantation after Eden's been there for a little while.
Yeah, I think she did fine.
I was like, what in the hell is with this? Like, this is ridiculous. And then I went, oh, that's why. Okay. Her dialogue and her acting was so out of character for Antebellum South. I'm like, what the fuck? This makes no sense.
Yeah, and that's an element of this movie that even in its advertising, it's kind of sold as this mind bender, this twisted film. I gotta say, I was a little bit disappointed with the. I wouldn't even call it a Shyamalan.
I wasn't. I thought it was glorious. And I will tell you, if you want to have that part at least maximum odds for enjoyable, just please go watch it. Don't read anything.
Sure.
Then read all the things afterwards.
So the synopsis we gave, we mentioned Veronica being an author in modern time. We haven't even discussed that because what happens is we wake up and Veronica is in modern time.
Well, so we wake up with Veronica, who you immediately realize looks exactly like Eden. It's modern times, and she's laying in bed with her husband, and she's got this adorable, beautiful daughter.
Perfect life.
She has this, by at least an outside metric, a very good life.
Successful and like doing what she wants to do, and it's important stuff.
It's like she's woken up from a nightmare. You feel like, okay, this could be like one of those ancestral things. This could be a reincarnation thing. You're kind of wondering. It could go a lot of different directions. I'm not going to tell you which of those directions it goes.
That would be.
But it is interesting, the stage that it sets, and we've got a obviously dramatically different tone for the next chunk of the movie.
Yeah, that was a huge chunk of the film to be so intense and dark, to reveal very little of the plot. Like, there's some.
Here's what I say, though. I think
there 3 rapes in this opening? I think 2.
But here's the thing: they could not have sustained that tone much longer.
I don't think so.
Before it lost its effectiveness. Like, you had to go to something. And I thought this was a really interesting way to pace the movie. It was pretty funny because also there's this character that comes in, Dawn, the best friend of Veronica. And when Veronica goes on this conference to New Orleans, her friend meets up with her. This is Gabby Sidibe, who
a lot of people know her.
Most well known for Precious. But because my husband hasn't watched Precious, he goes, is that the lady from your show Empire?
Okay. She's also in Coven. She was in American Horror Story Coven and Freak Show.
That's right.
And Hotel.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Apocalypse. She's been in all of them.
She was obviously a very different character than what was seen in the first part of the movie.
Listen, I don't like this character.
I know. Well, I think what her character does is sets up a really dramatic contrast to what we've seen in the first part of the movie.
Sure.
Veronica sets up this really dramatic contrast to what we saw in the first part of the movie with Eden. And then Gabby / Dawn, through her character, sets up an even more dramatic contrast to the life of a black woman from what we saw earlier in the film.
Yeah, I guess throughout her experience, she's facing all these almost subtle racist things that are happening to her, and she's not putting up with it.
And Sam and I had an interesting conversation about this. I think that her character and her performance specifically is this interesting, I don't want to say litmus test, but like mirror for a lot of viewers to hold up, because it is so, I guess, so unusual in Hollywood to see a really strong female role, even more unusual to see a really strong black female role who does not fit the mold of like your, 5'10", 120-pound beautiful perfect looking female. And for that person to take such ownership of their own sexuality, just their own presence in a room. And I think that it is kind of, I don't want to say off-putting, but it's like, it's almost jarring because it's such an unusual thing.
I think that's the reason I don't like it, though.
Well, and it may not be. It may not be. It totally may not be. But I know for me personally, I was like, God, this is kind of weird. And then I was like, why is this weird for me? I was like, well, when was the last time I saw a character that matched this character? I'm like, I don't really see that. I mean, probably honestly the dumbest thing to say, but was the character she played in Empire.
Okay.
Is about as close as I've gotten to that. And I think that that's an interesting statement in and of itself.
Yeah, I don't know. There's always a loud, obnoxious best friend. And I don't think that it has anything to do necessarily with race. Like, look at Rebel Wilson, for example.
Well, I mean, it's blending a lot of things. It's like this body positivity thing.
Sure.
It's a female thing. It's a black female thing.
Yeah.
There are a lot of current issues tied up into that performance.
Yeah.
And I think you could dig pretty deep into, I know I tried to, into my own personal reaction to it. I just really like her because I think she's really funny. And I think we've all got a friend like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if...
You know I'm your friend like that.
Well, I was just going to say, like, the loud, obnoxious role, I am that friend in
I
that
guess you
respect,
kinda
for
are.
sure.
Wow. That's why I don't like you.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But it's like that kind of confidence, pretty cool to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Even as a white woman, I look and I'm like, God, I want to be that confident. That's kind of amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any, like, horror things you want to talk about this film? I don't know.
I mean, all of the horror things I want to talk about are how it's just a remake of the and I love it.
All right. Come on. Like, we got to start giving it a little bit more credit. Everything isn't a on.
This is a
It was not.
I mean, this is like a literal because it is the so it's not just like a twisty, but it's like the
All right. Well, now... Do I have to beep that a bunch?
Oh, you have to beep all of that. Byron, I don't think we can say anything else about this movie without ruining it.
I think that's fair to say.
Let's just say that we've got the second part with this team of women. From that point, shit goes off the rails.
It's a bit of a
and
thriller.
You just got to watch it.
Very exciting film. This is a split decision, Kelly. Why don't you give me those final thoughts?
Yeah, I understand the criticisms, and all I can speak to is from my set of experiences and my perspective on life and on our world as it is right now. This, I guess, brought heightened awareness to things for me. It forced me to watch some things that are really uncomfortable. It's probably easier for me to say that because I am not being exploited in this movie in any way, shape, or form. So I understand people who feel that they were, and I want to respect and honor that. For me, it was an incredibly powerful movie. Like I said, we're not talking the eloquence of Get Out, but continuing that same tradition of trying to make people more aware and force people into having discussions about some uncomfortable things. And I think that that's really good. And I think we need that right now. I have been telling everybody I know to watch this because I think that it's an interesting thing for us all to at least think about.
How many friends you lose?
None yet. In fact, super cool story. I was talking with one of my students who, like with my other life, and she actually is applying to film school. We had like a 20-minute conversation about this movie and all the cinematic techniques used in it and how much she loved it.
For you to talk about this?
Oh yeah, are you kidding me? That it found its way into her essays. She's talking about Antebellum in one of her personal statements for her film applications.
What's your score?
I give Antebellum 8.6 glasses of champagne.
Oh, all right. I think... yeah, this film is just not as clever as it thinks it is. The directors...
Maybe that's why I like it, because I'm probably not as clever as I think I am
Maybe
either.
not this week. They're commercial directors, and to me this felt like a commercial, especially the end sequence. I don't know who I was donating to at the end, but I sure felt like I was about to. It's just too surface level to do the subject matter justice. And like I said, the acting is great. I love Janelle Monáe and Jenna Malone. Robert had that really intense, scary performance, and I did enjoy that. But yeah, Jack Houston, even though he did kind of shift my perspective a little bit.
It's because I'm right.
Not Leo, not intense, but maybe he's just bad for a reason. Who knows? It's incredible that they were able to get the Gone with the Wind lens, but I just wish that it was a little bit better of a film. it came out of a dream and was going to be a short story. I think that it could have very easily just been a short. I don't think this is a good film. For that reason, I got to give it 4.1
Oh my
hatchets.
God. Hold on, just pointing this out, mathematically speaking, that's less than half my score.
I know. This is the first time this has ever happened.
Yeah, this is the most extreme.
Wow. We're going to be seeing more from Gerard and Christopher. Lionsgate has already greenlit their next project, something called Rapture, which they wrote another short story. They're going to expand it. It follows a family who is torn apart by warring beliefs and must come together to unravel the mystery around the sudden vanishing of the global population before it's too late.
Who directed that?
That's their next movie.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying that's our
No.
movie.
And those are our thoughts on Antebellum. Really gonna need to know what your thoughts are. Why don't you let us know? Tweet us at Frightday. Reach out to us on Instagram. Our DMs are open also at Frightday. You could leave a comment below this episode in the show notes at frightday.com. Send us an email, contact@frightday.com, or let's just have a discussion about it in the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Frightday. Y'all been great. You were super nice to me during the break, and I mean, I needed it. Things have been very tough for me, and you guys said a lot of very nice, kind things, and I very much appreciate it. Hopefully that'll never happen again. I will never leave you. I promise. I'm never going to promise that. But thanks. If you like our show and want to help us make it even better, grab something spooky at shop.frightday.com. Spooky gifts. Give them to your spooky friends. It's the spooky season. Spread the... there's got to be some sort of pun in there. Spread the sneer. Give me a little help. Come on,
I'm
man.
just gonna let you drown. Honestly, I'm just letting you sink.
Enamel pins, patches, all kinds of stuff. And we are gonna be turning in for the night. But there's more for you to feast upon when you join the Frightday Society at patreon.com/Frightday. What are we doing this week for Behind the Screams? Last week, we had a great time talking about guilty pleasures. You got mad at me for Congo, but I really want to send you a clip where they're literally cutting gorillas in half with a laser gun, and they're using a diamond to power it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of cutting gorillas in half. If it was
No,
cutting humans in
these
half
are
with the laser
evil.
gun,
They're
I'm good.
evil. They're evil gorillas. So
I still prefer an
totally
evil gorilla
fine.
to a human.
Well, that's very interesting. Maybe this week we will talk about children's Halloween films. That might be fun. I don't know. Let us know what you want us to talk about on Behind the Screams. Contact at frightday.com. I'd love to hear it. Other things Society members get access to: bonus episodes of Captain Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies, Byron's Serial Corner, The Writer's Room, Toast to Toast PM with Wine Kelly, Cinema Autopsy, and members get access to new products before anyone else. They also get 15% off everything. And there's actually some products that are only available to members of the Frightday Society. I said this last week. I'm going to say it again. You're making our dreams come true when you support us there, because it would be life-changing if I could just talk spooky stuff to you guys for a living. It would
take it from me. It really would.
Just a handful more of you folks need to join up before we move into phase 3, which of course is us broadcasting weekly on Twitch. I'm coming up with this show. I get a lot of emails every week about UFO sightings, and I think that it might be fun to do like a big...
Why aren't you sending those to me?
I'll forward them to you, but it'd be cool to do a recap of the sightings of the week, and kind of give our stamp of approval or disapproval to what is actually out there. So it might be a fun program, but yeah, patreon.com/Frightday. Join the society.
Please do.
Most helpful of all, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you're listening to this. It's the best way to get us in new ears and up charts. Next week, do we know what we're doing? We've kind of been out of the loop.
We'll figure it out. We'll sort it out. Don't you worry.
I'm not worried.
What I'm saying is my children are screaming inside.
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
I need to
yeah,
go.
You gotta go. That's fine. Kelly, where are you gonna be until next week?
Oh, I'm going to be on Twitter at Kelly Frightday. I'm going to be on Facebook group.
You're on it. And
you can email me, kelly@frightday.com, especially with your UFO stories. Why the hell are you guys sending your UFO stories to Byron?
And you're preparing your Camp Frightday, Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies as well, right?
Heck yeah.
Should be fun. Camp camp.frightday.com. And I'm at Byron McKoy on Twitter and Instagram, byron@frightday.com. That's my email address. Yeah, thanks so much again for listening. And until next Friday, I'm Byron.
I'm Kelly.
You've been listening to an Audio Wool original, produced by Byron McKoy, theme music provided by Cemeteries. For more programs like this, visit audiowool.co.